One day last October, I was sitting in geography class when a small bald man called me out of the room, and he said, "I noticed you haven't picked an endorsement." And I was like, hello? What's an endorsement? And he said, well, basically, they're the things that help you pick what courses you want to take in high school, to help you pick what you want to do in college, which help you get money, which help you run the world, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh no. I have to decide what I want to do with my life. I have to do it, like, right now. And admittedly, he probably didn't say it exactly like that, but that's the way it sounded to a 14-year-old, 5'0" kid who just learned how to graph an equation in Algebra 1, okay? And I was like, dude, I don't know if I want to do this right now. I don't know if I can. I find that I often ask myself the questions I'm supposed to know the answers to. You know, like the typical high school questions, like, what do you want to major in, and what college you want to go to, and what do you want to be when you grow up? And if you're asking me, I have no idea, because I'm still that 5'0" kid, and I'm still trying to figure it out. On top of that, there's all these external pressures from our parents, peers, and everyone's best friend, the internet. Teens today are just bombarded with the pressures to think about the future before they even have to think about the present. And we're just not ready at this age. Not yet. Now, I applaud the people who have their hearts set on being an engineer or a youth minister or an oral surgeon. I mean, ultimately, it's everyone's goal, because the future engineers, youth ministers, and oral surgeons of the world have gotten past the part where everyone else seems to be, the bottomless pit of I don't know. In a recent study of teens from ages 14 to 18, there was a 17% drop-off in interest in jobs in the STEM and medical fields. And do you want to know where that 17% went? To the newly added option of I don't know. With these external pressures, making decisions is hard, okay? I'm just going to say it. And I always ask myself, why is it so hard for me to decide everything? And I found that it's actually because of our developing brain. For example, rental car people have it right when they don't lend their services out to anyone under the age of 25. Our decision-making prefrontal cortex is not fully developed at 16 when we're allowed to drive a car, or at 18 when Americans are allowed to vote, or at 21 when we're allowed to drink, but rather closer to 25 when we're allowed to rent a car. So we're asking our students to decide what they want to do with their lives during the same years they still have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. Evidence shows that decision-making depends heavily on specific neurons within that area of the brain to work. So if these neurons were to be disrupted, it would negatively affect our decision-making process. Another vital part of the decision-making process is the partnership between the cerebellum and the cerebrum, which are the two main parts of the brain. Our decision-making prefrontal cortex is in the cerebrum, and it is one of the very last parts of the brain to be fully developed. Now here is a scientific diagram of my brain, and as you can tell, I have a lot going on. All in all, it's not completely the brain's fault that we have so much trouble making decisions. First, there's social media. Today, we have so much access to technology. Everything, all this information is at our fingertips. And with all this information comes false realities. We see pictures and tweets and status updates of only the best parts of people's lives. But still, we compare our seemingly minuscule lives to the highlights of another person's life. And this constant comparison further clouds our brain and disrupting our neurons with unnecessary anxiety. Can I just say that a lot of pressure, at least for me, comes from school. I definitely have this impending doom hanging over my head because I don't know the answers to school and career questions. And I know that sooner or later I will have to answer them, and I will have to know the answers. For example, in an effort for the school to prepare us for the future, we, as freshman students, had to decide an academic or technical track we wanted to pursue. STEM, public service, arts and humanities, business and industry. And if you're asking me, I don't think I can tell you what my life purpose is if I'm just called out of geography class one morning. But we can't forget about parents. Oh, parents. We know that they have our best interests at heart, but they're probably the most, for lack of a better word, blamed for the pressures that we feel. But we have to remember why. They grew up in a time where success was measured by being able to support the family and have a job. But they grew up in a much more profitable and successful time than their parents. And so these standards were easily surpassed. So today, kids have been raised with inflated and preeminent standards for what it means to be successful. And this is an unintended consequence, but nevertheless a consequence. We have to remember that this is about us, and this is happening now. And everything that goes on in our heads and everything that goes on in our brains is real, and there's a physiological and neurological explanation for it. We know that decision-making is hard, but we have to know that it won't always be. Until that time, we have to break big things into smaller things and not get too stressed. We have to focus on the little things that will help us get through it. And sure, it's stressful, and yeah, it's hard, but at least we know it won't always be. Thank you.